This is the everything machine. It's not fear of one specific thing, it's chronic, free-floating worry about basically everything. Money, health, family, work, whether that email sounded rude. The worry jumps targets. Today, it's the rent. Tomorrow, it's a weird chest twinge. The next day, it's whether your kid's teacher likes them. The clinical marker is duration. Worry most days for 6 months or more that the person finds hard to control, plus physical signs. Restlessness, fatigue, muscle tension, trouble sleeping, irritability. Here's the giveaway that separates GAD from just being a worrier. A GAD brain treats uncertainty itself as the threat, not the bad outcome. Just not knowing is enough to trigger the alarm, so even good news doesn't fully land because the brain immediately pivots to, okay, but what could go wrong with this? If you've ever said, I just can't turn my brain off, that's GAD's signature line. Panic disorder. This is recurrent, unexpected panic attacks, sudden waves of intense fear that peak within minutes. Racing heart, chest tightness, shaking, choking sensation, dizziness, a feeling of unreality, and often a genuine, in-the-moment belief that you're dying or losing control. The key word is unexpected. These attacks come out of nowhere. Driving, sitting in a meeting, lying in bed. There's no obvious trigger, which is exactly what makes it so destabilizing. But here's the actual diagnosis-defining part, and it's the part people miss. Panic disorder isn't really about the attacks. It's about what happens between them. It's the fear of having another one. People start avoiding anywhere an attack might be hard to escape from, or start carrying water bottles, anti-anxiety pills, or a safe person everywhere, not because those things logically prevent panic, but because not having them feels unbearable. Agoraphobia, and this one is constantly misused in everyday language. People say, I'm agoraphobic, to mean I don't like leaving the house. That's not quite it. Agoraphobia is the fear of being in situations where escape might be difficult or help might not be available if something goes wrong, physically or psychologically. That covers a specific list: public transport, open spaces, enclosed spaces, standing in a line or crowd, or being outside the home alone. The person isn't afraid of the bus, they're afraid of what happens to them if they panic on the bus and can't get off. Clinically, this has to last 6 months or more, and the person either avoids these situations entirely, needs a companion to handle them, or endures them with significant dread. In its most severe form, it ends with someone who hasn't left their home in months, not out of preference, but because the world outside their door has become engineered, in their mind, as a trap with no exit. Social anxiety disorder. The core fear is being negatively judged, embarrassed, or humiliated in front of others. Not, I'm a little nervous before a presentation. That's normal. This is marked, persistent fear across social or performance situations, parties, meetings, ordering food, even making a phone call while someone else is in the room. The mechanism is almost always the same internal sentence. Everyone is watching me and they will notice that I'm failing. So the person scans their own behavior in real time, voice shaking, face going red, hands trembling. And that self-monitoring makes the symptoms worse, which the person then notices, which makes it worse again. It's a feedback loop. There's a subtype worth naming: performance-only social anxiety, where the fear is restricted to specific situations like public speaking or performing, while the person is otherwise comfortable socially. That's a narrower, often more treatable version of the same disorder. Specific phobia. Intense, irrational fear of one particular object or situation. Heights, needles, dogs, blood, flying, vomiting, enclosed spaces. What separates a true phobia from I don't love spiders is the immediacy and intensity of the reaction. Real exposure, or even just anticipating exposure, produces almost instant fear or panic, drives active avoidance, and the fear is wildly out of proportion to the actual danger. Someone with a flying phobia knows logically that flying is statistically safer than driving. That knowledge changes nothing because phobias don't live in the logical part of the brain. They live in a much older, faster threat detection system that doesn't take input from facts. The disorder threshold is whether it's actually disrupting life. A fear of snakes that you basically never encounter living in a city, mostly harmless. A fear of needles when you're avoiding a medical procedure you need, now it's clinically significant.
Separation anxiety disorder. Most people hear this and picture a 5-year-old crying at school drop-off. Here's the part that surprises people. This disorder is increasingly diagnosed in adults, and adult cases are now a significant share of presentations. The core feature is developmentally inappropriate, excessive fear about separation from a major attachment figure, a parent, partner, or child. Not, "I'll miss them," it's intrusive worry that something catastrophic will happen to that person or to the self while they're apart. Nightmares about separation, refusing to travel, sleep elsewhere, or even let the person out of sight for fear something terrible is about to happen. In adults, this often shows up disguised as something else, like someone who calls a partner 6 times during a normal workday just to check, or someone who can't function at a job that requires travel because the anxiety about being away from home is too intense.
Selective mutism, consistent failure to speak in specific social situations, like school, despite speaking normally elsewhere, like at home. This is not shyness, and it is not the child being defiant or stubborn, which is exactly how it's often misread by adults around them. It's an anxiety disorder where the speech centers essentially get locked by fear in certain contexts. The child can speak. They're not choosing silence as a power move. Their nervous system has classified that specific situation, that classroom, that group, sometimes even that one teacher, as too threatening to risk vocalizing in. It's mostly diagnosed in childhood, has to last over a month, and isn't explained by a speech-language disorder or unfamiliarity with the language being spoken. Without intervention, it can extend into adolescence and shape a child's entire educational and social trajectory, which is why early recognition actually matters so much here. OCD. OCD has 2 parts, and people only ever think of the second one. Obsessions, intrusive, unwanted thoughts, images, or urges that cause intense anxiety. Not "I like things neat." These are thoughts the person doesn't want and is often horrified by. Fear of contamination, fear of having hurt someone, intrusive violent or sexual imagery, a need for symmetry or exactness that feels unbearable to leave unresolved. Compulsions, repetitive behaviors or mental acts done specifically to neutralize that anxiety, washing, checking, counting, repeating phrases, mental reviewing. Here's the relationship that matters. The compulsion isn't the disorder. The compulsion is a coping mechanism for anxiety. It works, briefly, which is exactly why it becomes compulsive. Relief, then the obsession returns, then the ritual again. It's a loop that anxiety built and the compulsion feeds. Post-traumatic stress disorder. This one requires something the others don't: exposure to an actual traumatic event, direct experience, witnessing it, learning a close person experienced it, or repeated exposure to its details. After that, 4 symptom clusters show up: intrusion, flashbacks, nightmares, distressing memories that arrive uninvited; avoidance, steering clear of anything that resembles or reminds the person of the event; negative shifts in mood and thinking; guilt, shame, detachment, a changed view of the world as fundamentally dangerous; hyperarousal, being on constant high alert, an exaggerated startle response; irritability, trouble sleeping.
What separates PTSD from the rest of this list is the nervous system isn't responding to current danger, it's responding to a danger that already happened, as if it's still happening. A car backfiring isn't a car backfiring. A particular smell isn't just a smell. The brain's timeline has gotten stuck, and the body keeps reacting to the past as though it's the present.